He stood on the shore watching the ship pull away, and in that moment, he understood something most people never do. Survival is not always about choosing life. Sometimes it is about choosing the kind of death you can live with. The pirate ship shrank against the horizon, its sails swallowing the last connection to humanity. The men on board believed they had made the safer choice. Rotten wood, sickness, cruelty. All of that still felt more familiar than an empty island. They chose the danger they understood. He did not. What kind of man chooses a deserted island over a ship full of people? This was not a heroic act. There was no brave speech, no noble sacrifice. It was a decision made in anger, pride, and a quiet certainty that something was deeply wrong. The ship was dying. He could feel it beneath his feet. The hull was weak. The sea was unforgiving. And the captain was blind to both. The choice lasted only seconds. The consequences would last 4 years. As the pirate crew laughed and the anchor chains rattled, he realized too late that certainty does not protect you from regret. The island did not welcome him. It waited, silent, cold, patient, a place where time stretches, where sound becomes an enemy, and where your own thoughts turn against you. No rescue came, no voices answered. Days blurred into weeks. Weeks collapsed into years. The human mind, built for noise and faces and conflict, began to rot in silence. He would hunt like an animal, sleep like one, forget the sound of his own language, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, he would stop thinking of himself as a man at all. The irony is cruel. The pirate ship he refused would sink not long after, killing almost everyone aboard. He was right, and being right would cost him more than being wrong ever could. For years alone, no mirrors, no clocks, no mercy. This is not a story about adventure. It is a story about a decision, and the invisible price it demands long after survival is secured. The island did not look dangerous at first. That was the first lie it told. From a distance, it seemed manageable. A stretch of dark green rising from the ocean, shaped by volcanic force and forgotten by time. No smoke, no movement, no signs of life. To a sailor's eye, that silence felt temporary. Surely a passing ship would come. Surely this was only a matter of days. But islands like this do not measure time in days. The man had arrived with almost nothing. A few tools, a musket, powder that would not last, a Bible, clothes meant for the deck of a pirate ship, not for a land that clawed its skin and punished every mistake. The shore offered no comfort. Sharp rocks cut his feet. Sea lions claimed the beach as their own, their weight and aggression making the coastline more dangerous than the open sea. Behind him rose the interior, dense, tangled, and unknown. No paths, no landmarks, just layers of green swallowing light and sound. Every step inland felt like stepping further away from the world he understood. Still, staying near the shore meant death by exposure or violence from animals that did not fear him. So he moved. This was the moment survival quietly began, not with courage, but with calculation. He learned where fresh water hid, trickling through thorns and stone. He memorized slopes, ravines, and cliffs, knowing a single fall could end everything. He discovered caves that offered brief shelter from rain and wind, though they came with their own horror. At night, the island revealed its true nature. Rats poured from the darkness, bold and relentless. They bit his fingers, his face. They stole sleep, and with it, sanity. Silence during the day gave way to sounds that felt too close, too alive, too patient. The pirate ship was gone. The pirate crew were gone. And slowly, the idea of rescue began to feel less like hope and more like a story he once heard about someone else. This was no longer about waiting. It was about learning the rules of a place that did not care whether he understood them or not. Hope does not disappear all at once. It erodes. At first, he still measured time by the sea. Each morning, he climbed higher ground and searched the horizon, convinced that a pirate ship would eventually appear. Every distant shape became a possibility. Every reflection on the water felt like a signal. But the ocean remained empty, and the sky offered no answers. That was when the island began to change him. Loneliness is not silence. It is noise without meaning. The crash of waves never stopped. The wind whispered through trees like unfinished sentences. His own breathing became too loud, too close. With no one to speak to, his thoughts turned inward, circling the same fears again and again. He began speaking aloud, not because he wanted to, but because forgetting the sound of a human voice felt like a step too far. Food became routine, not relief. Hunting goats demanded speed, focus, and a body pushed past comfort. He learned to run barefoot across stone and thorns, his feet hardening, his movements sharpening. Pain no longer warned him. It simply existed. Fire became sacred. When his gunpowder ran low, panic replaced hunger. Without fire, nights would stretch longer, colder, and more dangerous. When the flame finally returned, born from friction and patience, it felt less like triumph and more like permission to continue existing. But survival carried its own threat. Confidence crept in. Familiarity replaced caution. And the island punished that mistake without hesitation. During a hunt, the ground vanished beneath him. A sudden fall. A violent impact. Darkness. When he woke, pain flooded his body, sharp and absolute. He lay trapped in a ravine, unable to stand, unable to shout for help that did not exist. Hours passed, then a day, perhaps more. Time lost its shape. This was the moment the illusion shattered. There would be no second chances here. No pirate crew to pull him back. No captain to argue with. One broken bone would be enough. Survival was not a victory. It was a fragile balance that could collapse without warning. And now he knew it. After the fall, survival stopped feeling accidental. Pain lingered long after his body recovered. Every movement reminded him how close the island had come to ending the story without warning. The confidence he had gained was stripped away, replaced by a careful, almost ritualistic way of living. Each step was tested. Each decision weighed. The island had taught him its first real lesson. Endurance means nothing without restraint. He began to organize his days, not to improve comfort, but to preserve his mind. Work replaced waiting. Routine replaced hope. He built shelters higher inland, away from the violence of the shore. One for sleeping, one for work. Order became protection against chaos. When the world offers no structure, the mind collapses inward. He refused to let that happen. Yet silence remained the most dangerous enemy. Days passed without sound beyond wind and water. To fight it, he read aloud, prayed aloud, spoke to animals that did not answer. Not because he expected them to, but because forgetting language felt like erasing the last proof he had ever belonged somewhere else. Faith became less about belief and more about anchoring identity. Then came a different kind of fear. One afternoon, movement on the horizon. Sails. At first, relief surged through him until recognition followed. The shape of the ship. The flag. Not rescue. A threat. If discovered, he would not be saved. He would be taken, punished, or erased. The island, for all its cruelty, suddenly became the safer place. When strangers landed, he ran. He moved through terrain only he understood, climbing, hiding, becoming invisible. From above, he watched armed men search below, unaware how close they were to him. One mistake, one sound, and survival would end not by nature, but by people. They left without finding him. For the first time, he understood the truth he had been avoiding. Rescue was not guaranteed to be mercy. Civilization carried its own dangers, its own violence. The island had nearly killed him, but it had also taught him how to remain alive. And slowly, the place that once felt like a prison began to resemble something else. Not home, but belonging. When the sails finally returned, they did not bring relief. They brought hesitation. From the high ground, he watched the pirate ship approach, its shape familiar, almost unreal. For years earlier, this sight would have driven him to desperation. Now, it forced him to question something far more dangerous. Whether he still belonged to the world that ship represented. He lit a fire anyway. Old habits die hard. Signals are instinctive. When the pirate crew reached the shore, they did not see a survivor. They saw a figure shaped by the island, silent, watchful, dressed in animal skins, moving with an economy that made them uneasy. His voice, when he tried to speak, resisted him. Words felt foreign, heavy, as if language itself had rusted. Life aboard the pirate ship felt wrong. The food was too harsh, the shoes unbearable, the noise overwhelming. He struggled to sleep below deck, surrounded by men who laughed, argued, and drank as if none of it mattered. The island had stripped him down to essentials. Civilization demanded he rebuild a self he no longer recognized. They praised him for surviving, for adapting, for enduring. But endurance changes people. He sailed again. He worked. He obeyed. Yet something remained misaligned. The world moved too fast. Decisions felt careless. Arguments pointless. He had learned patience in silence. and now noise felt like danger. The truth is uncomfortable. He had survived the island, but survival was not the same as escape. The deserted land had taken 4 years of his life and quietly reshaped the rest of it. The decision he made in anger had not just saved him from a sinking pirate ship. It had removed him from the person he used to be. This story is not about bravery. It is not about adventure. It is about choice. Because sometimes the most dangerous moment is not when you are left behind, but when you are finally allowed to return. What would you choose? The familiar danger of people, or the honest cruelty of being alone?